Time to have a look through the papers for you this morning. Last time today with theologian Vicky Beeching and comedian Ian Royce. And we'll start, Vicky, and we talked to you just after 6 o'clock about this, didn't we? The Archbishop of Canterbury, the energy hike. It's on the front of the Mail on Sunday. What do you make of his intervention?
Well, he's spoken out very forcibly about the rising prices, mainly because of the monopoly that the big six have over us and the fact that it's not really a lot of choice. We actually have to buy energy, so we're kind of backed into a corner. And he's saying when companies have that kind of monopoly, they have a moral responsibility to think about the impact on the most vulnerable in society. So he's really saying that they need to massively think about their moral duty to the people who will be hit hardest. I know a lot of people doubt whether religious leaders should speak into, political or business matters, but if you actually look at the Bible, there's a ton in there about justice and poverty and money and looking after the poor. So I think this is what I would expect.
It's interesting, though, isn't it, that we have reached a point over recent decades of saying politics and religion must not mix, and these religious leaders should keep their nose out of all of this. But historically, actually, they did feel they had a responsibility to stand up for what they believed.
Absolutely. I think if religion is divorced from politics, to me, it's actually kind of losing a lot of its power. I mean, the whole point is how do you run society? And the Bible kind of gives a blueprint for a society that looks after the poor, keeps an eye on the vulnerable, asks for justice, and really that's all that Justin Welby's doing here. I think he's brave to speak out.
If you read the Bible, Jesus himself was very political. I mean,
he was.
Exactly. Exactly,
and he's crucified for being another king, basically. So I think to say that people like Justin Welby should keep quiet is also to underestimate his experience as an oil executive and the fact that he actually knows a lot about what he's talking about.
I mean, the thing is, it's not just affecting the poor. I mean, it's affecting everybody. I mean, this is why every single person's bill in the country is about to increase massively. I think that the Labour government are talking about freezing prices, aren't they? Should they win the next election, which is a great policy to be shouting about as we go into an election. But I think it's going to affect everybody, and not just the poor and the vulnerable, although they will be hit harder than most.
Well, I'm intrigued just by the fact he's not saying it is wrong. He's not saying these price hikes are wrong. He's asking for justification, which I think is quite an interesting stance.
Yeah, and that people shouldn't just be trying to make the maximum profit, but they should actually feel that sense of moral duty just to make sure what they're doing is right.
It's a shame we're not going to hear more from him today. He's in Kenya, apparently, helping people come to terms with what happened at the Westgate shopping centre there. But I'd be interested to hear more of his views on this and a bit of flesh on the bones, as it were. Let's move to the Sunday Mirror. Look, this is just, Ian, so horrific.
I mean, I've met Paul a couple of times, and it's beyond tragic. It really is. I mean, he's a national treasure. He really is. And I mean, only the other day he joined Twitter and went up to 350,000 followers in what was a space of a couple of hours. And that's how much Paul's loved by this country. And I just think, I don't know if it's true. I mean, it said that he went into this hotel. The hotel report that he only had one drink, but he is obviously drinking again. And I just think it's a tragedy for Paul. And the problem is with Paul, the only person that can help Paul is Paul. He has to make that stance and come forward and says he wants to help. I think there's a lot going on in his life. But I just wish he'd realise, I mean, when he joined Twitter and that many people followed him immediately, that's how much he's loved. Yeah. And I wish he could recognise it for himself and perhaps for himself and the people who do love him, he could, get out of this rut, because I fear the worst that will be reading a headline that Paul didn't make it.
Totally.
He's been in it such a long time.
So it's encouraging that his friends are speaking out. I think that hopefully shows that they're keeping an eye.
I think it's a good thing. I mean, all the papers got behind Paul. Actually, the Sun, the Mirror, the Mail. They all got behind Paul when they saw him this, and I think Piers Morgan and a few other people paid for him to go to America into rehab, which didn't work for Paul, which is so sad. And I hope these stories keep coming up, because then I hope people will see them, and they make it difficult for him to drink. But I'm worried for him. I am really worried for him.
Yeah. We're almost out of time. Just a quick look at the Observer, Vicky. Can we?
Yeah, they're saying it's going to be
tablets. Here we go. So right at the top.
Our most mobile Christmas ever. So they're saying that we're reaching a tipping point where we're actually going to see double the amount of gifts bought via a mobile device.
Right.
So most people are actually buying on the go now at really strange times, like between 6 and 8 a.m. when they use their phone as an alarm clock. They wake up, they start buying, and then in the evening during TV shows.
Yeah.
And a lot of those gadgets are actually going to be gifts as well. So they're saying not only that, but on Christmas Day around 3 p.m, people will use them to buy things.
Interesting, isn't it? It shows the power advertising, those adverts on the telly, of which you're about to get some, have a lot of influence now when you can actually see something and just instantly buy it.
I wonder if there will be just that button you just press and it's done.
Matter of time.
That's coming, right?
Matter of time. We are going to take a short break so you can do a bit of shopping, and we'll see you for more papers in just a moment. So we're looking through the papers with Ian and with Vicky. Let's have a look at... this is on the in the Mail on Sunday, Ian.
Yeah, I mean...
GP's death list.
Yeah, I mean, there's a death list that GPs can fill out, and basically it's getting people to die at home rather than a hospital. So GPs are pushing for the fact that the death of an elderly person at home is far better because we're saving around £958 should the person die at home as opposed to in hospital. So there's now a form that the GPs are filling out, and they're getting paid £50 bonuses to get these elderly people on this list. And I think it's appalling, quite frankly, that we're not even actually talking to older people about death and where we want them to die. Surely we should be encouraging them to live.
I don't know. Isn't there an attitude which says, you know, actually talking about death can help develop a healthy attitude towards death? Because we've all got to face it.
Yeah, have you heard about death cafes?
Yeah, but if you go...
They're talking about them in cafes now. They're actually holding cafes in Europe where you meet with groups of people and just talk about death. Like
this is in
young,
Holland,
right?
People. This has to be in Holland.
I think one of them was in Holland.
Yeah, they're all stoned.
It's kind of this phenomenon of like getting in touch with your frailty.
There.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know. I'm for one about, you know, doctors in the NHS should be promoting life and you know, and talking about living and extending life and rather than talking about death and how to and more the point, getting a £50 bonus to get them on a list.
£50 bonus.
That is a bit shady.
worrying.
I think if you want to find out where someone wants to die, that's positive.
No, I understand
the payment
that,
sounds a bit suspicious.
Yeah, and there's a form. There's an online
There's
form.
always a form.
I don't know.
There's always a form, right?
I like the idea, if it's not too weird, I like the idea of sort of having a good death, if you know what I mean, one that's sort of content. And
yeah, with your cat.
With the cat, yeah, with a cat.
And
we're almost at that.
your teeth going to charity.
It's worth it. We've got 10 seconds. What's this escaped bison?
This is amazing. Disneyland Paris, the Buffalo Bill Wild West kind of... basically, one of their exhibits involved a bison, and it broke loose.
Oh,
it was running around for 30
Good
minutes around Disneyland Paris, and apparently visitors had to hide in the resort hotel because obviously you wouldn't want to meet a bison.
Head on.
No, you wouldn't really.
They managed to catch it, but it was quite an unusual day for them.
Wow.
At the Buffalo Bill Wild West show.
I bet they got a free burger. People there or something like that.
Bison burger probably.
That's probably been cooked.
Yeah. Really good to see you this one. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Let's get a quick check on the sports headlines.